Hey there guys, welcome back to another lesson. Today we'll be talking about the for loop. In my opinion, the for loop is actually one of the more complicated loops, so you guys should try to listen to this video a bit carefully. So let's just get straight into the video. So let's start off with the for loop. So here's the general syntax for a for loop. You say for, parenthesis, and then you have an initialization. So in this, I'm just going to create int x equals 21, okay? And then semicolon. And then we're going to add our next parameter, which is a termination condition, which is basically like if this one thing happens, then our for loop will stop. So in this example, my termination condition will be if x becomes greater than or equal to 50, and then another semicolon, and then we have something that's going to increase or decrease our variable. So I'm going to say x plus plus. So this just means on every loop we go through this, x will be increasing by 1. Okay, so now in this little thing, I'm just going to put something like system.out.println. Oops, system.out.println, and then I'll print x. And then we're going to run the code. Basically, just by doing this, we're going to be running through this for loop until x is greater than 50, and x is going to be increasing every time. And when we check the console, we see nothing happened, and this is just because x is 21 to start off with, and 21 is not greater than 50. That was my bad. I changed the sign and then run the code again. So now 21 is less than 50, and now we should be seeing something that prints out like 21 all the way up to 50. Okay, that's pretty simple. I mean, the for loop in this example might have been seeming pretty simple, but in reality it can get really difficult and it can be kind of confusing. So I forgot to mention this as well. Anything down here is just like the body of the loop that would always be a loop through. Like suppose I could have things like, maybe copy this and say shit. Okay, no, that's not what I wanted. Okay, system out dot println, and then we can say something like we are going through this loop, and then put the semicolon at the end. It's always something big. I always forget to put the semicolon. It's really odd. Okay, yeah. So this is what we had before, and we check the console for a second time. Wait for it to load, and we just get we are going through this loop a bunch of times. So between 21 to 51, just going through this thing, saying we're going through. I'm just gonna change this. We are going through not his loop, this loop. Didn't see my spy. So we're going through this loop. Just going to go through this over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, so I mean, once you get the hang of the syntax, it's not that hard, but yeah, this is what we have right now. So let's just try to make something a little bit more difficult with this for loop, and let's do something like for int x is 21, x is less than or equal to 50, x plus plus, and then we can say something like system.out.println, we are going through this loop, and then how about we add like 5 more print statements, and then just to see the order and the way this thing, our code, it goes through our code, just to visualize it for you guys. Instead of doing this, we're going to say we are not going through this loop, even though this is completely false. I'm just doing this so I can show you guys how Java will read through all the lines of code and how we're going to go through the lines of code. So basically, I'm just going to run it like this. So we have something that says we are going through this loop. We are not going through this loop. We are going through this loop. We are not going through this loop. So it's just alternating. I was going to make something a bit more impressive, but couldn't really think of anything off the top of my head. So we're just going to go with this. So we have 4 print statements, and when we check down here, we see that it's just alternating between we are going through this loop, we are not going through this loop. That's just because in Java, when Java is compiling the code, it's just going to go from one statement to the next, like going to this statement first, and this statement, and this statement, and this statement, going all the way back up and going through all these statements and reading through all these statements. Now, here's something really cool that we can use to break out of this. So suppose we want to say BREAK, and we added a semicolon, okay? So as of now, without this break, we're just going through this loop like however many times. Just keep going through it. But now I added a break down here. As you can see, instead of going through it like however many times, we're just going through it once. This is because whenever we say break, we always come out of the code. So in this example, when I said break, we're leaving this little section of code, and instead of looping through it, Java is reading the break, and we're going to go outside of it. So suppose outside of here, I write something like, let's copy this and say, we are outside of this loop, and we ran this code. It would just print all these 4 lines of code, and then it would go through and break out of this code and print this one singular line of code. So we say we are going through this loop, we are not going through this loop. We are going through this loop, we are not going through this loop, and then we are outside of this loop. So once we have the break, it just comes outside of this loop. And then if we were to just remove the break, I mean, it would basically be the same thing, except this entire statement would just keep repeating until this condition up here is met. And after all of this writing over here, we finally get, we are outside of this loop. Alright guys, so hopefully you guys learned something about the for loop. If you did, please make sure to leave a like down below and make sure to subscribe. And I hope to see you guys in the next tutorial, where we'll be talking about while loops. Peace guys.